Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to start by thanking the Royal Highland Society for sponsoring my study and also the other many people who have helped me along the way. Where the River Isla tumbles over the Highland fault line, leaving the bonniest of the Angus glens, is a wee place called Inchich, and this is Inchich and a bit of what we do there. We're very proud of our thrifty ling cows and clin ewes. We're in the bull and ram breeding business, and we have been for generations. What we really think we're about is producing functional and efficient breeding stock for other producers. And my Nuffield's been trying to ensure that we do just that. I travelled to the States where I saw recorded herds. I went to see recorded herds of over 1,000 cows and witnessed the genetic gain that was made by the horsepower that these programs were harnessing. One of the most impressive programs I saw was this place, Coal Creek, Angus, on the banks of the Yellowstone River, not long after it left the national park. Greg Golden ran 170 cows, but he had a real clear vision of where he was going, and he'd followed that vision for 50 years. It was for maternal, functional cows, good feet, good udders, and lots of fertility. It seems to me that in breeding programs and in hire cars in faraway places, that speed's all very well, but direction of travel's pretty important too. On reflection, I could have saved money on the hire car and I should have bought a better map. Greg says this job is all about the cow, and he's right. She's in charge of our cost structure, and she's in charge of our fertility, our units of production. These are the fundamentals, I think, so it is all about the cow. A couple of thousand miles down the track in Iowa, this guy is Steve Radokovich. 2 years ago, Steve was my hero, and now he's my friend, and Nuffield's done that. Steve's got a similar program, well-adapted, fertile cows. It's about being in control of your costs. It's about fertility being the best measure of fitness for environment. I had a really enjoyable 24 hours with Steve, and I could feel the report writing itself. It was going really well, and I was just getting in the car to go, and Steve turns to me and says, "Neil, remember, this job is all about the bull." Hey? But he's right, it's all about the bull. You can select your heifers, your replacement heifers, but if you're utilising a terminal sire, and you've sorted some out for structure and temperament and perhaps thrown out some extremes, there's not a lot else to work with. And you can cull the cows you've already got, but there's a cost to that. And that'll help the herd of the present, but it's not doing a lot for the herd of the future. Which leaves the bull, which is where your selection pressure really is. But that's got to be on the cow's terms. Because it is all about the cow, but the cow traits that the bull's carrying. Now, he's a fine-looking chap, but there's very little we can see here that explains the maternal traits behind him. And when we're picking the bull, we've really got to think about the unseen cow traits behind. The same with a ram. So, efficiency, I think, is all about the things that our grandfathers knew and we've sometimes forgotten. Cows have got to survive on the resources available on the farm. She's got to calve every year. It's got to be a useful beef animal. She's got to keep on doing that. But as breeders, we need to drill down to individual animal measures of efficiency to identify the genetics to really drive us forward. Measures things like, Things like feed to gain, calf weaning percentage. One we really like at Inchich, kilos of lamb weaned per kilo of ewe wintered. But ultimately, a measure of cost against a measure of value. These are useful key performance indicators, KPIs, to benchmark our progress, but they're not traits. They're a point of balance between two different traits. And you can't select for a point of balance between two opposing factors. often antagonistic to each other. You've got to split them down into their component traits. The traits that we've been working with generally work around growth, carcass yield, and to an extent, milk. To me, they're all on the performance side of the balance, and we need to focus a wee bit more on the other side of the scale. And with traits like longevity, parasite tolerance, condition score, mature weight, lamb survival, and feed efficiency. They're all tools we have available in the toolbox, or they're being developed. The gains to be made on this side of the scale, I think, are going to beat the pants off the ones on the other side. 5% more U grades have nothing in comparison. Whatever happens, in beef and sheep programs, we can't keep on going where the dairy industry has been, all performance without counting the cost. I think there's got to be some form of regulator to performance. Back to the efficiency measures. These KPIs will become our new show rosettes. These are how we'll share our vision with our clients. By benchmarking in our own flocks and with our clients' flocks, these KPIs are going to be the point of difference that we're going to put in our ram sale ads. This one said, if you want a ram to move your flock in the direction of more weight of lambs weaned per kilo of ewe wintered, then you need to come to the working genes sale at Inchich. Other Nuffield Scholars ram sales are available. Nuffield can take you to a dark place, and as I'm sure many of you in this room know. I was in one, 3 weeks into a 5-week trip. My foundations had been rocked again. I was missing my kids. I was on a long drive in New Zealand, South Island, and I had to get out of the car to clear my mind when I saw this statue of a horse at the side of the road. Alexander Roberts was a retired farmer in Timaru who dabbled in a bit of horse breeding. He bred a stallion of sound English breeding to a 50 guinea mare with a one-race unplaced racing history, but who had a great grandmother with a touch of class. On the pedigree, she's the one in the far bottom right corner. The resulting colt foal seemed to disappoint enough to be sold as a yearling. At a sale when the top price was 2,300 guineas, he sold 160 unseen to go to Australia on the basis of that little ounce of breeding. On arrival in Sydney, this gangly, ungainly colt was rejected by his new owner, but kept at the insistence of trainer Harry Telford because of that little ounce of breeding. He was named about that time as a play on words from a Chinese dialect meaning lightning strike, because on the practice track, Far Lap was really slow. But when he started to race as a 3-year-old, he started to win. 35 wins in 25 months, including 4 in 8 days at the 1930 Melbourne Cup Festival, including the Cup itself under a record handicap weight. He'd done everything there was in Australia, but the best racing was in America. So they took him to the richest race in the world, $100,000 in Mexico, against some of the biggest winners from the US. Far Lap won hands down in track record time, not long off the boat. Far Lap died a few days after that race. The secretary, the clerk of that course in Mexico, was asked many years later, which was the greatest horse in America in the 20th century? Was it Man o' War or was it Secretariat? And his reply was, neither. I saw Far Lap. So here I am, standing at the side of the road in Timaru, trying to finish the end of this story, and I can't see for tears. Because I've just realised that I'm not a farmer. I'm a breeder. I want to be part of a story like Far Lap. Not the $100,000 equivalent of winnings, but being the men who, like Roberts and Telford, who saw the potential in that little bit of breeding and had the faith to follow it through. And then I had my Nuffield lightning strike moment. This is a horse, and I'm in the beef and sheep business. He's a legend because when he crossed the line, he crossed it first. And in our business, first's not everything. It's better than last. But most important is for every cow and lamb that starts the race to reach the finishing line. As a ram client of mine told me lately, at the end of the day, if I get an R3L carcass at 19 kilos, I'm pretty happy. The only ones that I really struggle with to get there are the ones that die along the way. So in our business, unseated or pulled up is a disaster, but midfield finishers every time, that's the stuff of legend. But we're stuck in this far lap pedigree model, promoting sons of champions, grandsons of record prices, or great-great-grandsons of classy mares. And we've got all that pedigree and that little ounce of breeding. It's pretty lucky it worked. What we should be doing is stacking that pedigree full of bursting with midfield finishers. So in conclusion, what are we doing at Inchik? I think I've seen the vision of where we want to take our herds and flocks. We're going to benchmark our efficiency measures, but we're going to select on a balance of traits. We're going to stack our pedigrees full of midfield finishers. And we realise that it really is all about the cow, or at least it's the bull on the cow's terms. At an industry level, I've had a great education in breeding through this study. And yesterday, we heard a lot about developing people. But there's not really a mechanism for developing better beef and sheep breeders. And I think it's maybe time to help British farmers become better breeders. Finally, I just want to leave you with the thought that these guys here behind me were my heroes, and now they're my friends. And for that, Nuffield Farming, I thank you.